Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to Giving Gap TV. I'm Tina Brown with Giving Gap, and we are in full swing of our #Audacious campaign, where we're talking to bold and unconventional women leaders in the nonprofit sector. And today, I'm thrilled to be joined with Markasa Tucker-Harris, who is the Executive Director of the African American Roundtable. Markasa, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
You're welcome. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump right in, and I want you to tell us a little bit about the mission of the African American Roundtable and what sort of inspired your journey in developing this space.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. So we are an organization based here in Milwaukee. We are specifically located on the far northwest side of Milwaukee, where lots of Black folks have been gentrified, and we saw it as an opportunity to come and build with the Black folks living here. And our mission is to organize, nurture, transform, and develop Black leaders in service of Black liberation. And so we are excited to not only help to build, but also to learn and to grow alongside the residents here in Milwaukee and really throughout the city, because our work doesn't end on the northwest side. It really ripples into other communities, which is so exciting because some of our members live across the city. How did I get here and create this space? So this space was actually created before me. The African American Roundtable was founded in 2012 by a group of Black leaders who were a part of different nonprofits here in Milwaukee, working on different issue-based work like environmental issues, housing. And I jumped in during a time where we needed an opportunity to do our own work, because a lot of the leaders, it was just like, let's support, but the roundtable didn't have its own base. And so I often tell my story as to coming into social justice work, but also into the roundtable as Dontre Hamilton, a Black man here in Milwaukee, was murdered by police at a downtown park in April 2014. And that's during a time when I had just entered the nonprofit sector. But I would be remiss if I don't also share my journey into social justice at the layer, peeling the layer back just a little bit more. My parents grew up in Mississippi and came up to Milwaukee during the Great Migration. And one thing I just recently learned, as my mother is one of now our top leaders and Northwest Side leaders here in our organization, is that she actually wanted to do social justice work. And so I believe that this work was in my DNA. My grandfather would often tell her the work is dangerous, and he didn't want her doing it. This was during a time where Emmett Till was murdered and lynched in Mississippi, where they grew up. And so I understood why maybe the gift was dormant in my mother for so many years, and to better understand why then when Dontre Hamilton was murdered, I was so activated. This was actually something that was in me, and I didn't know it. And I'm so happy that after times of inviting my mother into this work, she's now accepted the opportunity and the invitation, and she is helping to lead here on the far northwest side for us. So unfortunately, like I said, it came through tragedy, but it has been an amazing opportunity to build here with the staff, the residents, and our all Black women board as well.
Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. And I love the fact that you have this history with your mom and her original passions and how you were able to pursue it. And then she sort of got looped back in, and now is really probably doing the work she's supposed to always have done, right? And it's probably impactful now. So that's beautiful. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about some of the defining moments, or even maybe some of the challenges you faced as you're now at the helm as the executive director.
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. It comes at a very, I have my notes and the things that I want to say, but then, God creates these opportunities and doorways for you to share, like in real time, what's happening. And I would say being in the nonprofit industrial complex within itself already presents lots of challenges in regards to how we want to get to Black liberation. We know that funders and the way of the nonprofit industrial complex, that is not the true pathway to freedom. Like, we are constantly freeing ourselves through the different practices and work that we do, but we know that being in this system can also create challenges that we're talking about here. So it can create the challenge of how you want to do your work, the ways that you want to do the work. And because we have to, yes, follow protocols and systems, and we hear the things that are going on currently with this current administration that could try to stop the work that folks are doing. So there are people who are trying to figure out, should we start LLC? Should we go under a church ministry so they continue to do the work? So I would say just being a part of the nonprofit industrial complex can really pitch into the work, but also being a Black woman, right? And so being a Black woman in this work, you think about every hat that you have to wear on top of carrying the mantle of leading an organization, where ultimately is leading community into the transformation and the change that we want to see. So I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a TT, I'm a godmother of 8. I am a community leader, and I do ministry out in the community. And so that's all. And I haven't even mentioned my role as the executive director. So being able to hold and manage multiple hats and multiple things, and not to say that I'm this disjointed person, but it does take a special time and place to be able to come 9 to 5 and do this work. And, sometimes at night you're doing it. So I would say, the responsibility that comes with helping to lead an organization, lead staff, all while we are, let's just be honest, dealing with white supremacy that we often say, unfortunately, we swim in. So we're also talking about the material conditions in Milwaukee that we have to move through, our own trauma, the ways that we need to practice to be better people, to be in better relationship, also with the folks that we are working with. And there's the violence, all of these things that are happening at the same time while you're trying to create and enact change. And then the things that are, yes, happening with funders who are pulling out, who again, that we knew would never fund the revolution. And so we use this as an opportunity through the nonprofit industrial complex to build the communities that we want. But also, there's times where we have to go outside of the nonprofit industrial complex. And that goes back to some grassroots organizing where, you're not necessarily in this structure and you're doing some of the things that you can out in the community, whether it's through a neighborhood association. I'm involved in mines in my community. And then I would also say, not having enough money to do all the things that you want to do, right? And so we at the Roundtable are looking for ways to increase our revenue streams, whether it's doing training in the community, whether it's partnering with businesses and leaders to sponsor the work that we're doing. So it's never enough money. Seems like it's never enough time. It seems like it's always something. Like I said, this current administration is really showing its tail and also creating some other challenges for us. And just the role as a Black woman and carrying all of the things to try to ensure that we're getting where we want to go. Those are enough challenges, but those are some to name a few.
I appreciate that very thorough answer, but you hit on so many things that I think so many folks watching will relate to. First of all, this intersectionality of who we are, right? Wife, mother, friend, auntie, godmother, all the things, right? And that's before we even get to our professional capacity, right? And so we're all just navigating life as women, as Black women. And then we come into these spaces where there's already these barriers and obstacles placed. And then you have a new administration who is literally going out of their way to create additional hoops and barriers. And it's a lot. And so thank you for sharing such a rich answer, because there's so many layers to it. There's so many layers to it. As soon as you put out one fire, it seems that there's another one. So I want to talk about some of the services or programming, Markasa, that your organization offers, or how do you actually engage with the community? So what are some of the things of the way folks in Milwaukee can actually engage with you?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. So what an amazing time to be a part of our organization. I became the co-chair in 2016, director in 2017, and the executive director in 2021. And through that journey, that is just what we've been wanting to do, is to engage and connect the community. When I came in as the co-chair in 2016, like I said, we were looking for a way, what kind of work can we do to engage the community? Before I got to the Roundtable, I was working in media, left media, started working in daycare. And that's when I often tell people my eyes were kind of reopened to the things that were happening with mothers, children, daycare workers, just the system of daycare. And I thought, this seems like there's a lot going on here, and I want to be a part of that change. And so when I started working in nonprofit, I thought, what are the opportunities? What can we do that's different from what these other organizations that are sitting at the table doing? And so we jumped into civic engagement a bit. So we're out canvassing, we're out doing some community education. Then we thought, that's the norm. Like, we do that very well already. Are there other opportunities? And then that's when Dontre was murdered. So then it created this opportunity for police reform work. And so I ended up joining a committee through the city called the Community Collaborative Committee. And there we took on some opportunities to address some of the police practices. And so the feds came in. This is when they had a program before Trump came in office. The first time he ended a program. But within this, the feds came to town and they said, hey, we're going to investigate and like audit your police department, and we'll lay out a list of practices that they can actually do to be better police officers. Now, I'll tell you a little bit more about how I don't necessarily believe in reform at this time, but that's how we came into the work. And when we did this, we actually created spaces for community listening sessions so that folks could come out and they could understand what this patterns and practice report was about, what they could be a part of to help to push the change, to lobby for change, to connect with their older people around change. And then we worked with the city, common council, the mayor's office, the police department to try to initiate those changes. So I went through loops within the city and decided that work was for a season. Came out of that work and we created a campaign called Liberate MKE, where we offered the opportunity to really push back on community investment and push back on the notion that police are going to save our communities by getting so much of our budget, which is something that I learned. So we created spaces where we taught people how to read the budget, how to testify, to push back on what they wanted to see in the city budget, which is our taxpayer dollars. We also taught folks how to be a part of the civic engagement process, talk to your neighbors, bring them to meetings, and learn what it is that you want and tell that to your alder person who we actually pay. They're on our payroll. Like they work for us. And so inviting people into learning about the city budget was really transformative. No one had ever done this before. Once when we invited the city, like one of the city workers in to talk to the residents about it, they said, oh, wow, we've never been invited to the communities to talk about that. So since then, we've created some leadership development cohorts where we specifically train leaders to be a part of helping us to lead campaigns like that. We've also launched a participatory budgeting process. That's when when there's a pot of money that's given specifically to residents and they decide and have all governance in how that money is spent. I'll quickly tell you, once we took 40,000 of our own general operating dollars and we set that aside. We gathered about 7 Northwest Side leaders, and they were the steering committee, created the criteria for what projects residents could bring to this process to get voted on. They brought those projects and they submitted those projects, and then we allowed the residents to vote on actually what they wanted to see funded. And we funded 4 programs, 3 that were youth-based and 1 church. Perfect, awesome opportunity. We've been partnering with them since then. But since we've done that and shared that money into the community, we have come back to the city and said, hey, if we can invest $40,000 of our own money, we know that you all can. And so we're actually in a fight right now of our lives to try to get participatory budgeting through our city with these last set of ARPA dollars that came down during COVID, which of course could have been generationally transformative for our city. And so we're in the middle of a fight right now to make that happen.
That's so powerful. First of all, the whole idea of participatory budgeting for the community is brilliant. This is a little off script, but I'm wondering, do you all have a model or a way that other folks could replicate this? Because that just sounds like something more communities really should be doing.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. So we partner with the Participatory Budgeting Project. That is an organization that we ended up learning about it, but this is going on in cities across the country. It's actually even happening in a small city in Wisconsin called Eau Claire. So yes, we do have resources on our website for how we actually did this. When we brought the steering committee on, they created the criteria, they created, the platform where we received the projects, and then how we actually went about getting those votes from the different residents. And then we ended up having an amazing community party to announce that. And it was just a beautiful celebration. So yes, we do have resources on our website. We have toolkits as well to support folks who may want to bring this to their own communities.
Fantastic. So towards the end, Markasa, I'll have you give the website and all your social handles so folks can really engage, but that's absolutely brilliant work. So let's talk a little bit about impact, because I know there's got to be data points or testimonials you can share, because it's clear that you're making a difference. So I want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I had our communications consultant look over some of the notes that I dropped, and she was like, absolutely, I definitely have some data points for you. And I would say the biggest impact outside of us like being in the community is our social media reach and our advertising. And we've definitely reached over tens of thousands of people. We've had billboards up talking about the city budget, talking about Liberate MKE, talking about participatory budgeting, talking about ways that people can engage and make a difference in their own community. So we do those through billboards, we do them through bus shelters, we do them through ads on social media. We've been on the radio. And we also do community educational spaces. And so we've also grown our membership. We actually are a membership-based organization and started that in about 2022. After Breonna Taylor and George Floyd were murdered, we noticed that we didn't have the capacity to bring people into the organization to absorb all the people who were going out on the streets. And so we created this membership model. And within that membership model, we went from like 0 people to now we have over 60 people in our base. And these are active dues paying members as well, and they participate as leaders to help to strengthen and to expand our capacity into the community and who we're talking to when we're talking to people as well. So it's been an amazing opportunity to also educate so many people around the city budget. And I can't say, I mean, if we've been doing this since 2019, let's just say over thousands of people who've been a part of these processes. We've gone from at one point when we started this campaign, was nobody coming to the city budget hearings to now it is a normal thing every year that folks we know will turn out. And even if they're not folks who necessarily support our agenda, we just want people who to be involved in this community process, because again, it is our taxpayer dollars and we have all the power that we need as people to move things that we want to move so that we can get the wins that we want.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you're activating and mobilizing the community. As you said, they don't all have to agree on whatever, the issue is, but the fact that you are getting folks to think, you know what, maybe I should show up and know what's going on in my city, my community. That right there is absolutely brilliant. Let's talk a little bit about, you've been doing this for a while and you're leading and clearly making a difference. What's some of the advice you would give to sort of the next generation of Black women leaders?
Oh yes, thanks for that. Because when I thought through this yesterday, I said, what would you have told yourself? What would you have told yourself? And some things that I noted is, don't try to do it all. We as Black women, we are nurturers by nature. And we have unfortunately been put into a position by society to be these leaders and sometimes put these capes on because Black men have been pulled out of homes, through the crack epidemic and now the school to prison pipeline in all of these different ways. And so even though that is what society has shown us, has dealt us, does not mean that we have to pick up every piece and every mantle and try to do all of the work. So one thing that I would say is find out what your purpose and your call is and really hone in on that and do it well. As folks, this is something that I hear often is find someone who's already doing that work and get underneath their leadership and really begin to hone your skills. When I first came into nonprofit, not having a clue about how it works. I mean, when I came in, I said, this feels really loosey-goosey. Like I had come out of corporate. So I'm like, what is happening here? We don't have to do timesheets. What is going on? So, but while I was there, I was able to be under a Black woman's leadership, Alexis Anderson-Reed, who is now over at State Voices in DC. And she taught me some things. And even when she didn't think that she was teaching me some things, I was there gleaning from her. So I would also say, find someone that you can glean from in regards to the work that you want to do. Build a team, develop their skills, and delegate. Build a team, develop their skills, and delegate. Yes, I know it takes time. Yes, I know that, it's like, oh, I can just do without having to tell somebody. No, do that because you, again, are expanding your capacity and your reach, and you're developing other people to stand in the gap to do some of the work that we can't do. And lastly, I would say honor what your body needs. Honor what your body needs. Do not ignore that. God told me a few years ago, actually, Markasa, rest is your most powerful position. And I'm like,
Ooh.
Okay. And he said that because he said, because then you're not relying on your own natural strength. You're actually trusting in me and getting some supernatural strength. And I'm like, that is good, God. So yeah, so it's causing me to have to really trust on my faith in the work that I do, and honor my body when it says, actually, it's time to stop. And, you know, it can be so hard. And I'm still learning this and teaching myself this, that I have to honor those boundaries, because I am not as good as I think I am when I'm operating from a deficient place, or I'm operating from a depleted space. So making time to do one thing that I've done that supports that is taking 15-minute breaks during the day. You know, we will eat through our lunch, you know, we will work through our lunch. We will just keep going and going. And so I've put 15-minute time blocks, 10 to 15-minute time blocks on my calendar every day. No, it's like 15 to 30, not 10, 15 to 30-minute time blocks on my calendar Monday through Friday. And I honor those time blocks. I stop whatever it is I'm doing and either take a sensory break, go out into nature, get up and walk around, move my physical body. I bought a walking pad for the office, but I have to take care of this body. I have a family, you know, so I have to go back home and do things at home. And so honoring my body, strengthening my own muscles through exercise, are definitely things that I would offer back up to some of the other folks who are paying attention and watching.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, you hit on so much. Oh my gosh, we need to put you on a national panel somewhere, because
yes,
I mean, because what you said applies across the board, right? Not just nonprofit. This is across the board, honoring your body, honoring your spirit, honoring, you know, when it's time for rest. I love the piece about, build, develop, and delegate, because oftentimes as Black women, we try to do it all because we always have this mind of we know how to get it done. So we just like, it's easy. I do. And like you said, invest the time to build that team and develop them, because delegation is a thing. And we need to start utilizing more of those tools to be a bit more productive. And so we can scale our organizations as well.
Yes.
Just brilliant advice. And you already kind of touched on what you sort of would have told a younger version of yourself. So let's talk about, as you were on your journey, Markasa, go back to your younger self. Who are some of the women in your life that have inspired you along your journey?
Well, this was also a delicious thing for me to think about, and it had me going back to thinking about my grandmother. Frankie Lee Funches, who is no longer with us, but who I used to spend so much time with in the summertime with my brothers and with my girl cousins. We would go to Mississippi and stay with her, and I remember her going to work, and she would go and clean white folks' houses, and she would come back from cleaning, and she would prepare food for my grandfather and prepare food for us as children, and just allowed us a space to just be and be free. She would take us to the pecan tree farm, and she would allow us to pick pecans and get a little change to go to the sunflower or go to the corner store. But she was a woman who was integral, who definitely had a faith-based relationship with God, and created space for her grandchildren in the busy times in the summer while we would be there. And it was just such a joy. And when she was no longer able to live at home by herself, she came up and lived with my mother in Milwaukee. And just to still continue to see like her strengths, she ended up having breast cancer, some knee surgeries. But what a light, and what a woman to follow behind. I know that she was a praying woman, and which instilled prayer in my mother, who is the other person who I would lift up. Again, you know, my mother grew up picking cotton. My mother grew up a sharecropper's daughter. And so her and her sisters, after they graduated, she had 4 other sisters, several brothers. I think there's a family of 13 or so. But their vow was, once they graduated, the oldest one came to Milwaukee. First, she stopped in Chicago, then she ended up in Milwaukee. But every time a sister graduated, they would come back, grab the other sister, come back. And when they all made it up here, they created a life, you know, alongside their husbands, who they're all currently married. There's a few that are no longer here with us, but created a life from picking cotton to come up, and now they're owning real estate. They have, professional careers. They have beautiful children who are going off to do some amazing things. And so just the journey up and through, and, I can only credit, my mother and my father and some of these amazing women who have shown me how to persevere, how to endure, how to lead, how to mother, how to be a wife. And then I would also say Harriet Tubman, who I look up at her picture here in my office. What a beautiful, brave, courageous soul.
Absolutely.
When I think about her and her surrender to God in those moments where they said she had those fainting spells, where I believe she was getting downloads on where to go, how to go, when to go, what time to go, who to take, who not to take, how inspiring to be led in that way, to think about what I'm sure there was fear, but also resistance, resilience, rigor, and faith all in one, and discipline. Who doesn't want to be like Mother Harriet? So she also is really inspiring to me. And the North Star of freedom that she has also inspires me to continue on looking at my North Star of Black liberation for all.
Love it, love it. And we love Mother Harriet. And I believe, and we honor your grandmother today as well, because I believe this work you're doing, she has to be so proud. She has to be so proud. Oh my gosh, because you were in the fight. And we honor you today as well, because this is what it's all about. The grit and the guts it takes to lead organizations that are doing the real work, boots on the ground in the community. Everyone can't do that, right? There's a lot of fluffy stuff you could do with your talents, of course. As you mentioned, you were in the corporate world, same here. And when you make that transition into that, now it's very different, right? It's like, oh, okay, this is really, like you said, it's a fight, and you got to get up every day and put your armor on and be ready.
Yes.
So we commend you, Markasa, on being an audacious woman. And finally, I want you to tell us all the amazing things that the African American Roundtable has coming up. So tell us about projects, campaigns you're doing. How can we donate? How can we engage? How can we support you?
Yay. Thank you so much. I love talking about the African American Roundtable. When I was just on a call the other day with a Black woman on one of her board calls, and after the call, she said, "Oh, Markasa, you said this and you said that." I said, "Girl, telling a roundtable story is one of my favorite stories to tell. It's like an amazing story." So, some of the work that we are up to is we are actually sunsetting Liberate MKE, which is the Invest Divest campaign that we've been running since 2019, and we are creating space for a new Northwest Side Safety campaign. And so some of the conversations that we've been having with residents since we've been on the far Northwest side since 2021 are about, like, what do you want to see in Milwaukee? What do you want to see? This used to be a thriving, bustling business. Also just like a place for family. There were malls, there were restaurants, there were the big box stores. All of those things on a very interesting strip here in Milwaukee has been wiped out. And so it's like, what can we begin to offer and see there? And a lot of people are starting to say food access and how we process food. How do we have access to it? How do we process it? How do we buy it? How do we grow it? All of those things. So we are likely going to be starting some type of campaign around that, so that folks can know, even during these turbulent times where there might not be food stamps, how do folks have access to the food they need, but also how do folks prepare the food? You can give people, fresh foods, but folks may not even know how to prepare it. So we're getting ready to launch that campaign. We hope in the fall, we are developing our leaders to be able to support leading the campaign. We don't want to do all that work, and we want to develop the skills and also the leaders who can help us to hold that. So that's one super exciting thing that we're looking for folks to support and sponsor, because again, foundations are not going to fund the revolution. We should be funding it. We also, again, are fighting for participatory budgeting. And so it's more of a local thing, but just like you said, just to continue to raise the awareness. And when maybe different municipalities start to see it in other places, they have a little bit more trust in it, or they're more excited about it. They can talk to colleagues across the country and just say, this is an opportunity for residents to learn how to govern themselves. If we're going to liberation, going to this place where we're building this world that we want to see, we have to be able to govern ourselves. And this is an opportunity for them to practice governance together, but also fund projects that they know will help to keep their communities safe. And then also we have some really exciting work with young people. That has always been a dream of mine, to have young people. You must in your organizations if you want to be building towards the future. And so we have a youth program called Activists in Residence. We just launched it about 2 weeks ago. And it's an opportunity for young people to come in and again, learn the skills and teach us some things, and to lead spaces and create spaces for young people to thrive, for young people to develop their skills, for young people to just be, because young people just want a space to be. And so we want them leading these efforts, and we hope sometime next year we'll be launching the campaign that they would like to lead and see in the city of Milwaukee. There's so many opportunities for young people, but they just need the space, they need the support, and they need the resources, they need the funds. And so we like to stipend all of our leaders, from the youth organization, from the youth program, to the participatory budgeting program, where we have leaders who will be going to city meetings, who will be leading community education events, so that more people in the community can know what participatory budgeting is and get really excited. And also even the leaders with the Northwest Side Safety Campaign, we stipend our people. This is their time. Not to say that there aren't volunteers who are also giving the work, but we know that this takes time and effort. And if we have the funds and our people who are out there supporting us have the funds, let's make sure that we resource the people who are also doing the work. And then of course, it just takes work and effort for us as leaders and staff. So we're always fundraising just around for things in our office, whether it is our salaries, whether it is the amazing marketing that our communications consultant is doing, and the work of our fund development consultant. We need those extra hands on deck, and we need the resources to be able to continue to do the work.
100%. There is always an operational cost to do anything. And so, yes, absolutely. So finally, before finally, let's get the website, Markasa. Let's get the social handles. How can we find you online?
Yes, thank you so much. So if folks want to find us, they can go to AART mke.org. On that homepage, you will see the donate link right in the right-hand corner. If you're feeling like, what, this work is really inspiring, and I got a couple dollars that I can support with this, please click on that link and you can do so. You can also become a monthly donor, be a sustainer, someone that is going to keep their foot on the ground with us in the city of Milwaukee, where you'll be able to say that you are a part of history in the making in Milwaukee. We also are on Facebook. You can find us at African American Roundtable, all together on Facebook. Instagram, we are African_American_ Roundtable MKE on Instagram. And we're just recently on LinkedIn, and we're at AART MKE, and also on TikTok at AART MKE.
Fantastic. So AARTMKE.org. And I imagine that most of your, or all of your social media links are probably there on the homepage that they can connect to. Okay.
That's right.
Yes. So get to the website, y'all, find them, engage with them, donate, become a sustaining donor, which is simply a recurring donation that fits your budget. But this is the type of work we need to be supporting. And now finally, Ms. Markasa, please tell me what audacious means to you.
I appreciated that question. And I would say, so I don't miss my points because I'm super duper excited to answer this question. That means that I hold boldness and undeniability to think that I can actually change the conditions around what I knew was true for my parents growing up in Mississippi when Emmett Till was lynched. The undeniability to change the conditions in Milwaukee for children, families, and Black people especially. The undeniability to fight, to resist, and to end police violence. I had the undeniability that I could do those things, and we're doing those things in Milwaukee. None of these feats are easy to obtain, but I believe in the power of God inside of me, people power, and that the oppressed and downtrodden can and we will win. I also have an undeniability around being able to do this as a Black woman, wife, mother, godmother, TT, sister, daughter, and community leader outside of my 9-to-5. I believe God will equip me with the capacity, tools, and support and mindset to do so. He has gifted me for such a time as this. So audaciousness wasn't something I created, but what he put in me to get all of this work done and so much more.
Fabulous, fabulous. Markasa, we want to thank you for your time this morning. We so enjoyed this conversation. You dropped so many gems. I really hope folks tune in and listen and actually take notes. And we thank you for being an audacious woman.
Thank you so much for this time. I'm super excited to have had this opportunity to sit down and talk with you and all your viewers.
Absolutely.